20146 is your SMS line at Metropole TV KE across all your social media platforms. We are finally settling into the last conversation of the day. Let's talk about food security in the country, but we're getting it from the perspective of the news that we got recently that Galana Kulalu project is ready for investments. Now, the government recently declared the Galana Kulalu Moro irrigation farm ready for opening up to the private sector. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya, who recently visited the farm, said the project is now ready for the next phase of opening it up to private investors after having successfully realized the objectives of the pilot phase. Let's listen in to what the CS Munya had to say on the state of the Galana Kulalu project before we come back and talk about it.
This was a pilot. The 10,000 acres was supposed to be a pilot. Once it succeeds, then you can expand. And the expansion would be do the infrastructure, then invite the private sector now to come and invest. And as you have seen, the pilot is successful in the sense that you can utilize technology, grow food. The project is, in my opinion, very successful. It is a question of now making a decision of going to the next level. Move away now from pilot, expand the area, provide the infrastructure that is required, and then invite private sector, invite people who have enough money, because government doesn't have that kind of money, and government would rather use its money for other things and let private money drive the production.
Well, therefore, to help us understand better what that means from the CS, we are joined by Engineer Charles MUASYA, the project manager at Galana Kulalu. Engineer, good morning. Engineer MUASYA, can you get me, sir? Good morning. Well, we're still waiting to connect to Engineer MUASYA this morning. Let's take that tiny break, therefore, or not the break. Let's look at the data that we have around this area in terms of food security in the country. If you can actually put that data on the screen as we wait for Engineer MUASYA to join us this morning. Engineer MUASYA, can you get me, sir?
I can. How are you? Good morning.
Fantastic. Good morning. All right. So let's get therefore into the conversation this morning. What was the thinking behind the setting up of the Galana Kulalu project? What is the objectives, or what were their objectives at the inception?
Thank you. The objective of Galana Kulalu irrigation project was to address food security in Kenya. And we started off with a model farm, with the 10,000 acres model farm. And in the 10,000 acre model farm, we were trying to demonstrate and really prove that you can grow maize. Maize, you know, is Kenya's mainstay in terms of food security. And that bit, so this far we believe that the farm is ready, and you're packaged in such a manner that now the private sector can come on board and take off. Just a bit of statistics is that Galana will be able to demonstrate that you can grow maize and get an average of about 30 bags per acre. The national average in other parts of the country is about 17 bags per acre. So indeed, we believe that if we do seasons in a year, then we are talking about 60 bags per acre. This bit, we believe that we have demonstrated that you can grow maize, and it's viable now. It's ready for the private sector to come on board.
Pretty much, we're going to talk about exactly what that means. Now, everybody knows that at some point during the coming up of this project, it appears to have stalled. Have all the issues, therefore, around this area been ironed out for us to talk about being ready for private investment?
Yeah, let me confirm that there were issues, and much to do with this issue are just the issues between the employer, the National Irrigation Authority, and the contractor. And these were rather contractual issues which should not really affect project per se. So indeed, what I'm confirming is that the issues which are there led to the disengagement with this contractor. And we just have about 15% of the model farm which has not been done. But we believe that sooner or later, this one will be sorted out, and all of the 10,000 acres will be ready now for offtake by the private sector.
Yes, for anybody listening to you now, how much, when we're talking about the model farm operating in full capacity, how much is the 15% going to take off the full operationalization of this project, sir?
Well, let me say that in terms of infrastructure, we have more or less laid the whole infrastructure for all of the 10,000 acres. Because a bit of just details about it is that we had center pivot systems on the farm and drip irrigation systems in the farm. So when I talk of 80%, it means 85% of 10,000 is already covered in terms of infrastructure. So what we are talking about, 15%, is a bit of now infrastructure that calls for a bit of a few like 4 center pivots and other systems, pipes here and there, so that the whole system is complete.
Yes.
So really it's not much, and I think within 6 months or so, something which can be sorted out if finances are made available.
Yes. Is it with the same contractor who has been working on the project who's going to complete the 15%?
No. Now we are beyond that now. That contractor has been terminated, and we are looking forward to getting on board a new contractor who just goes and takes over, and he does the 15% which is remaining.
All right. Now, engineer, as we stated at the start of the show, and we did see that bite from the CS, who was mentioning that the project is now ready for private sector investment. Just reiterate again to any private investor listening to you, how viable is this project, and what specific objectives from the pilot phase has the project realized to warrant its handover to private investors? Because that is going to be the key talking point about the Galana Kulalu project.
Just as I've stated before, is that we have demonstrated that you can grow maize and get up to 30 bags per acre. And when you look at it, is that we are talking of the total investment cost in an acre today in the farm to be about 45,000 Kenya shillings, which is bound to come down further because we are looking at connecting the farm to the national grid and bring down the cost of production substantially. So when you do your calculations, if you get about 30 bucks per acre, and you know, if you go by the current price of about 3,000 Kenya shillings per bag in the market, we are talking of 90,000 Kenya shillings from an acre. And if the total investment is 45,000 Kenya shillings, you are making more or less about 45,000 Kenya shillings per acre. So that is business, and there you can make money. More so, what I want to state is that we have also brought on board demos to try to demonstrate whether you can grow other crops on the farm. So we are doing demos on pineapples. We're also doing demos on cotton. So these are the bananas. So these are other crops which we think once we do the test and we finalize, also private investors, when they come on board, they can also supplement, because, you know, in agronomy, you cannot grow one crop continuously. There has to be breaks here and there. So we are looking at other crops in which investors can also now bring them on board, especially
all right, engineer, just to get also on that area, I want you to take, yes.
From maize to the farm.
Yes, I want you to take us to another area this morning, which is of a big interest then. Yes, we're talking about private investors. Who is therefore eligible to invest?
Well, I think the process, we have not commenced the process of recruitment of private sectors, but we are looking at models in which probably we can have investors who take farms in blocks. For example, somebody who can invest in a block of about 1,000 acres. So we are thinking of in the 10,000 acres, maybe there can be a model of bringing about 10 farmers on the farm. And that way, then it brings on board what we call economics of scale. Because when you bring in so many, farmers on the farm or investors on the farm, some of them may not mark that economics of scale based on what you are putting in production.
Pretty much. Is there any timeline that you can give us on when we expect this model is going to be ready?
According to the timelines which at the moment we are having, is that by June next year, that is 2021, we envisage a scenario whereby now the project will be totally complete. That's the remaining 15% will be done. So now from there, 2021 August, I think that's a time now when now the farm will be ready to be offloaded now to the private sector for investment. But let me reiterate that in terms of infrastructure, the government or the National Irrigation Authority will still continue to maintain the infrastructure. So that now we give water to the private investors, which of course is the model will come to be done, then they pay for the water and then be listened on the farm.
Pretty much, which therefore takes me to my next question, which is just pretty much what I've asked, but on a different basis. Yes, once we did get the announcement from the CAS that, well, the project is now ready for private investment, what has been the response? Have you got any inquiries about how private investors can go in?
Yeah, informally, we keep on getting inquiries from
how would you rate
investors.
them in terms of number-wise, engineer?
There's a lot of interest. Let me say that. And I think the only issues which were there, which was making people feel that probably the farm is not ready, I think now we have already demonstrated that the farm is ready, and you can go out there in the farm and invest in maize more so. And let me say that maize is not a very it does not have very good gross margins, at least. And if you have demonstrated you can also grow maize and get some profits, then I think if you come on board and grow other crops, then you make much more.
Pretty much. Now, there's this announcement that was made also by the CAS that the government is not going to interfere with the affairs of the project. Does that mean that now we're going into an area where the project or the Galana Kulalu farm is run 100% by investors, or we are talking about also the government being part and parcel of the processes that happen at the farm?
What we are saying is that the government will be an enabler, because we are talking a scenario where we support the private sector on the farm. We need roads, which we are doing. We need to bridge in Galana, and we need to connect the farm to the national, bring power in Galana, and also do a bit of social amenities, provide water, hospitals, police stations, etc., etc. So once the government does this, it has enabled now the private sector, and now we leave the private sector on its own, so that take off in terms of production.
Pretty much, engineer, which takes me to my next question. Yes, it's a big project. We're talking about 10,000 hectares. Good. How far do you think that the Galana Kulalu project is going to go in terms of solving food security issues in the country? And I want to ask you that also on my next questions, and you respond to these questions together. Is Kenya food secure presently? And how far are we from being food secure and nutrition secure, sir?
Okay, let me just address food security in one aspect. That is maize production in the country, because you see there are other aspects in terms of food security. But the total national consumption in Kenya is 40 million bags or thereabout, and what we produce is about 40. So we have a deficit of about 8 million bags. And, if you do your calculation, the 8 million bags, which is a deficit, you cannot generate all of it from Galana, per se. But what we are saying is that Galana can bring, to a great extent, support the government in terms of meeting this deficit, and especially in the coast region, so that you don't have to transport maize from other parts of the country to the coast region. So what we are looking at is a scenario whereby the Galana farm being in the coast of Kenya, in the coast region, we're able to sort out the issues of food security in terms of maize in the coast of Kenya. Then that being done, that's a great milestone in that part of the country.
Pretty much. Engineer MUASYA, thank you very much for speaking to Metropole TV this morning on the state of affairs at the Galana Kulalu project. And should we have anything that we need clarification on, we shall be sure to be calling your office soon.
You're most welcome.
All right. That has been your show this morning. You can take Engineer MUASYA to the time that he started speaking about the state of affairs of the Galana Kulalu project online at Metropole TV KE across all our social media platforms. And those questions, which I do know you have for him, 2146 here at Metropole TV. This is Business AM. My name is Simba. The largest chance here again.